Are we? Oh, we are rolling. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of the Chasing the Checkered video diaries. We're episode 7 because Shark insisted on being episode 6, which we have a little group chat going on, and you guys were like, what the hell? What the hell, man?
We really thought we should go by height, but here we are going after him.
And you guys, you brought up the idea of you two going on a show together. But if we were to put together a blooper reel, we just had about 15 minutes of bloopers right there before the show started. So this is going to be interesting here. So over to the right here is Mr. Brandon Lizotte. Over to my left here is Mr. Chris Case, who you've seen on mainly motorsports in recent years. Yeah, recent years. And now you're coming on my Chasing the Checkered show, which is pretty cool too, huh? Are you honored? Are you honored to be here?
Absolutely.
Honored to be here. They're both honored to be here. So my first question, we're going to put you guys in the hot seat now with our not so rapid fire questions. So my first question for both of you is what was your first experience like meeting each other, and how did it kind of evolve into where your friendship is today?
You can take it.
Shall I start?
Okay. Yeah, you go for it.
First season racing together. We had met briefly, but we had just kind of said hi and introduced ourselves. Basically, didn't know each other from Adam really. I had gotten run over the week prior to when we had our little encounter. But Brandon was a lot faster than I was, which is why he was starting behind me, and it hit me a few times to move me up out of the way, which worked. And I drove back down. I drove my left front fender down across his right rear quarter, coming off of turn 2 with that big wall there. Not to turn him, just to let him know that I was paying attention. And he wasn't real happy about that because, he didn't know where my head was. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he came over to see me after the race.
This is going to be a polite conversation, for the record.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. I was ready to kill Chris.
Yeah.
I was ready to kill Chris.
Yeah, it was interesting, but once he knew where I was coming from, that I wasn't actually going to turn him, I think it went a little bit better.
Yeah,
I could have.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, we were 3 wide and we were rookies, so not really aware of our actual situation we were in.
Well, you were in a CRX and I was in an Accord.
Yeah, boat with a parachute on it.
Yeah, I had about 3,000 pounds more than you did, so plus left side weight.
Yeah, so we bottlenecked and I stared at some concrete for a second, so I wasn't happy, but we worked it out, and now everything's it's fine.
Everything's kosher. It's fine now.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
And now we're gonna hit you with the hard questions. So there was a lot of controversy this year surrounding one certain driver in your division because the format of Thursday Night Thunder is supposed to be drivers with less than 4 years of experience in a JV division, drivers with 4 years or more in the upper division, and something kind of sneaked through the cracks this season. And Max Dolliver, who is an accomplished driver in New Hampshire, but had never raced at Beech Ridge before, ended up in your division. It started a lot of controversy among both the competitors and kind of the fans too. A lot of talk, a lot of keyboard warriors, a lot of stuff like that. So what are your personal takes on the entire situation? I think really it posed a challenge to drivers in your division, but what do you think about that whole thing that happened this past season?
You want me to start again?
I'll take this one, actually.
Feel free, yeah.
So when the season first started and we heard a certain car was coming back, we didn't really know where that car had went. It was a Jailbirds championship car, and it kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a season or two. That car ended up reappearing, and then heard word of who was driving it. And I personally didn't have any background knowledge of who Max was, but a lot of other people did. Were not impressed. Went out and practiced, raced those first couple nights. Within the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, me and Chris have both by then got a win. 4 weeks?
I hadn't, no, but so, that's okay.
I did.
I passed a lot of cars.
He was coming, but I mean, Max drove really clean all year. I mean, I don't think he put a scratch on that car. Being a fast car, starting in the back, I mean, we all drove through the field together, and he didn't touch anybody. Second thing is he was just, he was quick, so it gave us a challenge besides racing each other. And we had a lot of fun with Max, or I did. But I see where, some of the rookies in the second years were, not really thrilled about it, because it's another fast car and they already have a challenge, racing a 4-year veteran like we were this year. But at the same point, we're still 4-year veterans. I mean, they still already have that challenge with us. So adding another person to have them learn off them, for me, I would have probably liked it. I mean, our first 2 years, we learned a lot from who was in our division, like Noah, and I don't know. I liked racing with Max. I didn't really have a big problem with it whatsoever. For me, anyway, I didn't really.
Yeah, I think to Brandon's point, I mean, just because he was accomplished in other cars, he taught me more, I think, this year than I had experienced in the past. The restart games, and I'm sorry, Max, if you don't think they're games, but that was stuff that I'd never experienced, and that was a more mature type racing thing. I didn't know it until you did it, but after the races, I mean, we raced side by side several times. All of us did, and Max was clean. Max was fun to run with, and Max brought us to a higher level than we had in the past. But to the point of what I was trying to get to, I guess, is he'd never been in a front wheel drive car before. Well, not much before, I guess, and not at Beech Ridge anyway. And it's different. We're there's not many people that can get in these cars and just drive. A rear wheel drive overpowered car does not handle like a 100 and some odd horsepower Honda. As Kyle knows, he's over there shaking his head. I mean, it took him about 3 laps to dump it in the sand. So yeah, it's a different thing. But I don't think anybody can really argue the fact that Max brought us to a better level. That Max made us better as a division. He's a hell of a driver. I mean, anything he gets in, he's been competitive in. So it's fun to do that. The flip side of that is the rules. If there's going to be rules, and you have, which I think is where all that butthurt came from, was if there's something written, you need to enforce it. So it's 6 and 1, half dozen of another in a way. I mean, I enjoyed racing with him, like Brandon said. It was fun. He's clean. He's fast. He brings us to a different level. So there's a lot of good and bad.
I mean, another thing with that is I didn't get to talk to Max that much during the season. I mean, we just didn't pit near each other. We, quick wave, maybe attack, and then that was about it. But 250 weekend up in Oxford, he came up. He was racing his other cars up there for the weekend. And once we actually got to talk up in the grandstands, he said, these are probably the hardest cars I've ever had to drive. And he's very humble about it. He's not, coming in and like I drive a late model, and he's not like that. He's a wicked nice guy too. So when he said they were really hard to drive, it was like, I feel like our class doesn't get a lot of respect. They're just little Hondas, and no one really cares. But they're really hard to drive, and they're a big challenge for someone that hasn't been in them before.
People see him as entry level, and there is a lot of people that come in through Beetle Bugs, but then there's a lot of people that have been doing it for a long time at every track in the state that have been doing it because it's a challenge. They're challenging cars to drive. And yeah, as far as Max goes, I mean, he brought us to a good place. He was an added layer of competition that was a lot of fun to run with. So hopefully we get to run with him in varsity next year.
Yeah, really cool.
And another question is, we talked a little bit about, but is there anything that you'd like to change about like the Thursday Night Thunder schedule? I know that you guys don't like run heat races, which would be kind of cool to see on Thursday nights. I think one thing like I would personally change is like in competitors to like maybe actually have like the winner get to say a few words or something instead of just like going from one division to another. But what's your take on like maybe just some things that could change for the better on Thursday nights?
I agree with the winner getting to say something. I mean, we rely heavily on sponsors to help us fund our hobby, and getting to get that name out there more. It was nice hearing some of the videos this year. You could hear the announcers talking about the sponsors, and that was great. And it's awesome to get that out there. But to be able to get out of the car and say a few words would be really cool. I would almost put that ahead of heat races, just because, in a way, we don't need a heat race. We've got right now we have such small car counts. If we combine the two, and even if we had a separate point schedule and a separate award schedule, if we combine the two divisions, then I could see that happening. Have a low and high point heat race, because if there's a JV car that's having a good night and that's on fire and they come up and win a heat, cool, that'd be all right. But other than that, I mean, I like the condensed schedule. I like the Thursday night. For me, it works out well where I have a full-time job. It's nice to have time to get there, and then we practice, and then we get going. But definitely a little interview would be cool, which is, similar to what you do for us now, having the articles. It's nice to be able to take those and send those to sponsors and get that point out there. So I would say that's probably about all. I would just kind of shooting from the hip there.
I mean, yeah, it's not like we don't have time. I mean, they want to run a 2-hour program, which is great. I mean, it's not, a lot of kids come, they don't want to sit in the grandstands for 4 or 5 hours a night. I get it. But when we start at 7, we're rolling out at 8:30. I mean, there's plenty of time, and I feel like it's just rushed. Everything is. I mean, it's nice that it's so organized, but they could slow it down a little bit. They could add either more laps to some divisions, or just do like a top 3 on the front stretch thing, or even just the winner would be cool. But I'd like to see something.
Yeah, we've been we've been really lucky the last couple of years too, where we haven't had any giant incidents where we've had to cut a car open or anything. Having that time built in is kind of important too. We've been efficient with any cleanup, and we've been able to get that stuff going too. But should there be an incident where more time is needed, that schedule would have to be rushed. So it's hard to judge something until we see,
right? Yeah.
The other side of it. So I'm happy with what we do on Thursdays. I like it. Yes, it's rushed and kind of stressful at times, but we're the show.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I know that we kind of touched on this a little bit, but from your first meeting. But has there been any moment, like besides that, on the track where Chris pissed you off on the track, or like you pissed him off on the track, and just have one of those nice, like at the end of the day, like your friends, like you'll go and help each other on their cars, but at the end of the day, like when you put on your helmet, you're competitors. So oh my God, we just lost power. 1 second, we're pausing this. Take 78 here at the Chasing the Checkered video diaries. We had the power go out, we had a commercial break, and then we re-recorded, and then re-recorded again. And now we've just resorted to using the TV show camera, so thank you, Steve, for letting us use this space.
Yeah, 2 hours later, we out here.
Brought to you by Mainly Motorsports TV.
More than knocking, it's just a pizza.
Yeah.
So, where we ended off about an hour ago.
The first time or the second time?
One thing that we talked about before the break and before we lost power and all that good stuff is that if one racing moment where one of you ticked the other one off, but we have come to the conclusion more than once that you haven't had that moment since that first meeting, or then you said in 2017 you kind of had one racing moment where it wasn't really like an altercation or anything, just kind of like a...
No, I just kind of popped him in the back bumper, but other than that, no. And no is actually the answer. I don't think there's anything that really...
No, I agree. We've raced pretty good our whole 4 years, so...
And then another thing...
Yeah, washed up now.
And another thing we talked about a few times, if you ever had the opportunity to put one driver in a place, who would it be and why? I know that you talked about a competitor that you had troubles with in the past, but not necessarily now. And now that it's grown into a friendship, kind of like you and Chris as well.
Yeah, I mean, not as far because it's still, not tender, but we haven't had as much time to grow from it yet. But me and Derek McKean had our issues in 2017, and then just moved on. We kind of just had a quiet off season, and really, I think we both just thought a lot about it and how it really just ruined 2 good races, one for each of us, and this year we kind of just became closer friends, pitted near each other, and then me and Chris went to Wiscasset to watch, them up at, was it Fall Fury, or was it just an open?
I think it was
just an open. But, I mean, we still took the ride up and got to see them and hang out with them, and, I mean, just kind of move past everything, which is really the way it should be anyway, so.
Can I take it back and say that I would like to put Kyle in his place for yawning at us right now?
Yeah.
Because we sat and listened to him the entire time. And
drag on.
Neither of us yawned.
Yeah.
Actually.
No.
But he's over there yawning and making noises and stuff. You can't hear it because we have mics now. So he's basically a silent,
A silent partner.
Partner is a strong word. But yeah, he's definitely yawning. And
it's not my fault that Brandon needed to take a nap.
Brandon needed to take
I
a
know,
nap.
it was early.
I really hope nobody can hear him.
We politely nicknamed, or Brandon politely nicknamed him the bitch native.
That's fine.
And then another thing that we talked about is that Beech Ridge Motor Speedway eliminating Pro All-Star Series races in 2019. They're kind of taking a spin on it as that allows there to be more Saturday night races for Saturday night competitors, which is cool, but it kind of stretches the budget for those competitors. We were talking when you were on the TV show a few weeks ago that could possibly eliminate the past midweek series open that we did that you won back in 2017. We don't really know a lot of details, but there's now a midweek series, what they're calling a midweek series showdown, that was added to the end of the schedule after your season's over for the end of the 2019 season. So what do you think about that? What are things that they're going to have to do to allow it to be more than just Beech Ridge drivers and, allow drivers from other tracks to be able to compete against you that weekend?
Thankfully, we've only done this one once, so I'll just say what I had said before. From a perspective of the Pro Series drivers, that is taking away their home track, and it's taking away the advantage that they've had several weeks to prepare for. But from an us perspective, if there is an us, which was what Brandon had said actually, but if we do run Beetle Bugs or Rebels or Four Cylinders or however they do it, it's all going to depend on the rule book. Are we on racing wheels? Are we on steel wheels? And some of that for the Beetle Bugs is going to take away the advantage of the home track if we're on racing wheels, because we haven't run them during our season. So it's still up in the air as far as what that'll be. It'll be fun if we can race with other cars, if we can have a big field. We had a decent field in 2017. I think there was a pretty good field last year. I wasn't around for it. But, that's what's fun about that, is getting a lot of cars out there, getting to run a couple heat races, getting to run a feature. So hopefully we have that, and that's having the rules so that everybody can do it. And the disadvantage, like I said, about the racing wheels, there are other cars at other tracks. That's all they have. So to get them down here, that's probably the way to go. Being able to run both, you can do it. You're just not going to compete against the racing wheels compete against offsets, I guess, without having them. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Another thing that you just said that I didn't even think about was with the elimination of the pass stuff that gives these Saturday night cars more races. Did anybody ask them their opinion on, adding so many races to that schedule? Because I'm curious to see what the answer would have been, whether they were, hesitant to adding another 6 weeks onto their season.
I assume that was part of the driver's.
I would assume,
it was, yeah.
And
but that's a good point too. That if we're able to do that in our divisions, Thursdays, it's a compact show. It's quick. We need to be very invested in that to make it run smoothly. Having that meeting between tech, the ownership, and the drivers is very important to be able to promote the series. Ownership is going to want, or marketing is going to want the drivers to promote their stuff. And we all love what we do. We're passionate about it. Why wouldn't we? Just give us that stage for 2 seconds to talk to us about what makes sense for us. And Tech did a great job when it comes to the wheels, by the way, for our division.
They did, yeah. And the tires thing, yeah.
Coming out and talking to us. It was getting to the point that it was unsafe to run the DOT tires. And they listened, and that was awesome. Having them have a meeting with us on the tech pad, every single driver from varsity and JV, and let us talk. Let us tell them why we want to do that. Having that was a great dialogue, but to continue with that meeting would probably be a good thing for us to have. Should it be more than one? Should it be just one? Who knows? Because there's a lot of personalities that are going to be. It would probably be a long meeting, but we should try to have that dialogue.
No, I agree, and I don't think maybe it'd be easier to not have this meeting, either right before a race when you have no time. It'd be nice
absolutely.
To go somewhere and sit down maybe on a week, on a Saturday when everybody's still there for Saturday night shows. Thursday guys come, we're gonna have a big meeting. If you can make it, great. If not, but we need to have an actual sit down where it's not just all of us in a 10-minute quick we want to hear what you say, and then that's it. You know, it'd be nice to actually sit down.
We should definitely have that dialogue. A lot of the other tracks do. Saturdays do. It'd be nice for us to have it. You know, that they should get to hear from us, not just the top 3 every week.
Right.
You know, it's not fair that the guy finishing 7th or 8th in the races doesn't really get a voice. They should.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
And I feel, and then we talked about it before. There's not really many difficulties to you two working together as like a driver crew chief this upcoming season. But what do you think some of the strengths that you'll have after like being competitors for a couple of years, working with each other, in like a different sense in 2019?
I'm really looking forward to it. I know we've had a couple of times where the Saturday before championship night, we worked together to try to get my car working because we couldn't figure out what was going on with mine. We've always had a good relationship. Brandon has been really good about helping me. He knows more about these cars than somebody that's 21 years old should. He's been around them for so long with the Stones and with his family, with himself, with Randy, with everybody. He's been around them enough to really get a good feel for them, and he is very knowledgeable when it comes to making a front wheel drive handle, which isn't an easy thing to do. And he's also seen firsthand from behind me or from in front of me what my car does and where. So he's got a good view of that, and I have no doubt it's going to be a seamless transition to Brandon calling the shots, and hopefully being ridiculously fast.
Yeah, I mean, like what Chris said, if this doesn't speak volumes to how close we are as friends, me and Chris were going for a championship against each other that night. And still, we worked together the week before because I didn't want to just go out, and because Chris was having problems, we wanted to race each other. So we still worked together. I mean, Chris won, awesome. I'm wicked proud of him more than anything. But our friendship is past, the racing stuff. Our friendship is way more important. So having that, basis down, I think us working together is going to go really easy. I mean, we already have a lot in common. I know how he likes his cars, and I have some knowledge on how to get it to there. So, and then us working with Adam too. Adam's still got a lot to learn, but it's hard to pull information from someone that doesn't have a lot of car experience, and they don't really know what they're feeling, but they can't put it into words. So, both of us having actual, longer experience with it, it'll be nice to know what he's talking about, know what he's feeling, get him just as fast and competitive as Chris is going to be in varsity.
Yeah. And then if you two could, we already came to the conclusion that you have a mutual driver that you would pick.
We need to do that again, though.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm gonna ignore that. I'm gonna cover my ears.
Okay. So
if you could pick a most improved driver from your division in 2018, who would it be and why?
Daryl Quinlan, and we had talked about this last week. We came up with a short list of 3 names, but Daryl Quinlan both hit the top of our list. Daryl's just so smart and smooth in a car. He can drive anything. He's so much fun to race around, and he's going to agree, but let's see what he says.
What about you, Chris?
What? Yeah, I did it last time. I similarly would pick DQ. Daryl has been amazing. He can drive anything. It's not so much that he's improved as a driver, it's that he's learned and he's watched and he's gotten a lot of more experience. He's going to have a good car next year, from what I can tell. But the kid can get in anything and drive, from a 6-cylinder Buick or a Grand Am in an Enduro to a 4-cylinder Honda to a Street Devil. He will jump out of one, get in the other, and he'll perform. And a wrecked car, winning an Enduro at was it Lee or Star?
Lee, I think.
A big one. He's impressive to watch. He's going to be great in the new car, and he's going to be, somebody to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Very clean driver, very thoughtful. Likes to get out of the way most of the time. But he's not going to run you over either. He's been somebody that's really been impressive like that. I think I commented on his ability to miss things
Mm-hmm.
in front of him. There's a video from, I think it was my car, that he missed a car that was sideways in front of him, and I just don't know how there was enough room. It just doesn't make sense. And when I asked him about it, he had said that he just doesn't like to hit people, and I mean, we know that, none of us do, but
Yeah.
he's
But
gonna be somebody to contend with.
yeah, he's a very conscious driver. He's very aware of his surroundings and who's racing around him. And I mean, as far as him getting out of the way, yes, but I mean, he's just not going to hold you up. I mean, he knows who's behind him. He knows if you're faster, and he's going to politely just move to that second groove. And once you clear him, he comes right back down and keeps doing his thing. I mean, he's not just parachuting to the back. He tries, and that's a big thing. Is he puts a lot of effort into this car that he has, and trying to stay up with us and learn as much as he can. So I'm excited to see his new car, because with the skill that he has in a faster, more competitive car, I mean, I think we can agree as far as top 3 stuff. I mean, he's probably a top 3 points threat for that JV division this year too. So I'm really looking forward to see what he does this year and try and get some wins.
Yeah. I'll throw it out there too that I've noticed in 4 years for me, the first 2 years of my career weren't exactly stellar. I didn't have great pieces, and I wasn't able to show off anything. So I think with Daryl doing what you just said, he gets out of the way sometimes. He knows how to get back into the groove, but he isn't going to slow somebody down. The respect he's going to earn, or has earned doing that, is huge. And that's something that I think you guys, when you were much faster than me, could have said the same of. I'm not going to hold anybody up. I'm going to get out of the way. It's not worth wrecking a car or wrecking somebody else's chances. And Daryl does that too. He is very conscious of what he's doing when he's out there. So.
And then another good question for the two of you. Do you have a most embarrassing racing memory that you recall off the top of your head? And kind of recall that for us and share with the viewers.
Yeah, so mine actually came before I started racing full time. I think we were up for Fall Fury at Wiscasset. I was up with my Stone team, and me and my papa went up first, and my cousin Dave was on his way, but he was trailing behind us from down in Sanford. So we got the car unloaded, brought our best piece up there really from the cars we had at the shop, and just waiting and waiting. We'd already missed one round of practice, and I guess Pop felt comfortable with me going out and just kind of getting the tires hot and just going to practice. Well, I'd never even seen Wiscasset Speedway until that day, and Wiscasset is not the easiest track to drive by any means, and I'd never been on offset wheels. I'd only did one practice session at Beech Ridge on stock wheels, so that's a much different feel. Anybody that's driven one of these cars, it's not even close to the same thing. So I didn't think nothing of it. I jumped right in and went out to practice, and was getting, stay on the bottom out of the way and just getting a little comfortable. And then I started keeping up a little bit, and then I caught some cars, and I started passing some cars, and I got a little overconfident, maybe a lot overconfident, because I'd never done that before. It was pretty cool. Went into turn one and got sideways, and not having any experience, your natural instinct is just to stomp the brakes. Well, that's the last thing you do in one of these cars ever, because it's just going wherever you're steered. So I ended up eating the concrete and tractor tires when they were there in turn one, about full speed, coming down the front stretch. Destroyed that car. Somehow, though, it actually ended up making the race. We tied it to the trailer and ratchet binded the wheels back out, and just kind of welded some stuff in there. And then I drew pole for Dave, and when he went into turn one, nobody went. He went in full bore, and it was like they didn't even know it was green, because no one expected him to even make it through the corner. The car was so twisted. He fell to 6th or 7th, and then white flag. He took the lead back in an absolutely destroyed race car. Someone made it 3 wide going into 3 and took them all into the woods. But that was my mentor, somebody that could drive a completely destroyed race car in at probably the toughest track in the state, as far as I'm concerned, for our cars anyway, on a stacked field with some of the best drivers around, and he could take that to the lead. It was impressive, very impressive. So that's who I got to learn from. So that's why Dave has been one of my many mentors in this, but he's taught me a lot about driving these cars and how to do it and how to handle.
Definitely made the best out of your little mistake there.
Yeah. That wasn't my brightest day whatsoever. No.
How about you, Chris?
I'll lead with my most embarrassing moment, and I'm going to change it up a little bit now, and then I'm going to go back. It was when Kyle spun my car.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Embarrassing that I put him in that car.
It was rugged.
Why would I do that? We had to put pillows in the seats. We could reach the pedals. It was weird. Anyway, no, this season actually when I spun Kara Crowder in front of the field, and poor Brandon got hit in the side in the process. And
It was a cool video though.
Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift, yeah. I was outside of Kara and kind of using her as a pick because Kara's a slower car. I mean, it's not. We love Kara, but so kind of using her as a pick to get around Chris, and apparently Chris didn't like that and shipped her right underneath me. So yeah, she started spinning, and hit me in the door in the left rear tire, and he has an awesome video of it. And
I
just
didn't see the brake lights.
yeah, no, and just the car was right sideways, and I just held on to it, and very scared because I didn't see it coming. And all of a sudden, we were looking into the infield, and it was a little nerve-wracking, actually. But
yeah, still didn't mean to do that.
yes, it was an accident.
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing, and the stuff that followed. But that and spinning the car out all by myself in 2016 when I was running second, that was also an autograph night. So Kyle spun my car out on an autograph night, which was all nice and clean, and then I did it too. And what was cool about that was when little kids would come up and get autographs after, I'd be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" They're like, "Oh, good. You do anything fun today?" No. I was like, "Oh, I was sitting in the sand in turn 1 a little while, or turn 2 a little while ago," and laugh. And,
Yeah.
it was a good time. Anyway,
Playing in the sandbox.
basically. Yep. Yep.
And then to end off this video, we finally made it to the end.
Yes.
We're not there.
Yeah.
For
Stay
both of
away.
you, I know you're taking on a different role in 2019, but what are some of your major goals for 2019 and beyond? And why do you think that both fans and sponsors should jump on board with you and join your team in 2019 and beyond as well in the future?
So my major goal for 19 is going to be getting Adam into a position where he can start getting some trophies, being a top 5 points minimum. I think our real goal is top 3 points. I think that's doable. I don't think that is, too big of a goal with the competition level that's going to be in JV. I think it's doable. Second would be keeping Chris at least to second in points, and I don't think that is too big of a goal either for varsity. If not, threat for another championship. I mean, coming off of last year, really everything's right there. Everything's going to come together pretty easy. So we just need to, through those 10 weeks, just stay consistent, and I think we're going to be right there for that too. As far as beyond goals, I said, in our last interview, the legend car, that was my next step. Well, that sounds like it's actually coming together quite nicely. Now we found out this week, so we're starting to work with some other people to develop that for 2020. So more than likely, we're going to be in a legend car for after this season. So that's big for me. I've wanted to do that for a long time. And I kind of knew after JV that was going to be my next step. So hopefully it's all going to go through, but it's looking pretty good right now. So we're going to be most likely in a legend for 2020. So that's a big goal.
How about you,
That's
sir?
awesome.
Yeah. That's the first time everybody's here has heard it.
You
So
didn't make eye contact with me.
No.
Look at me.
yeah.
Yeah, 2019 is don't embarrass myself. Go out there and run with some people that have been running these cars for a long time. I said that on the show too. It's going to be different. We should be competitive. We just need to go out there and not embarrass myself. As far as beyond 2019, I have no idea. I'm really being that that shoot the target in front of me guy. This might be it for me, not this season, but like Beetle Bugs might be what I just do because financially and everything else, it just kind of makes sense for somebody in my position. You guys would say old. Yes, I still have hair.
I'm not quite sure about the hair thing.
So
A lot of gel in there, so they don't know what's fake and what's real.
It's actually wax.
Good.
That's Kyle talking again.
I know.
You can hear it.
Peanut gallery.
So I don't know. I don't know what I may do. I would love to get into something different. I would love to try. That growing up, and I've told these guys that. I've told Kyle this that. Growing up, the street stocks were something I always wanted to get into. That was what I see as a race car, a G-body, or I mean, obviously now the Camaros are more competitive, but That was always something I wanted to try. I don't know if I'm going to have the ability to do that financially. So, you know, I'm happy where I am. I got a hell of a good piece. I'm having a lot of fun. Winning races is fun. We'll see if we can do that. And you know, sponsorship wise, that's what we need to do. If we can keep that going, we can do okay. And I have been incredibly blessed with the sponsors I have on the car. You know, Modern Woodman in particular is always there, the main sales company. All these people that keep coming out and keep wanting to contribute to the success that I'm having is amazing. So we'll see what happens.
Well, teamwork is what makes the dream work, as people say.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to seeing you two working together in 2019, and we'll see how things go.
Yeah, it should be fun. We'll find out.
And now I think we're finally wrapped, so thank you for tuning into the nice little Blackout episode with Brandon and Chris here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Done. Oh, it didn't even turn off. I should probably keep this.
I'm out.
It's
what
recording
the
whatever happens from here on out.
Oh, good. Okay.
So we're recording already?
We're recording right now.
Hello.
I'm gonna make a blooper reel with this.
Where do I put this friggin' thing?
On your pocket.
In my pocket?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are these just glasses?
I'll Stick Johnson, everybody.
Oh.
Yo. Touchy. Hey, do you want these? Bitch NATO?
You have bitch NATO.
You really screwed that.
I should be like.
Shark. Can you turn it that way?
Well, I'm not in my seat. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, we're good now.
You.
I should say that that
Squad gang.
Brought to you by bitch NATO.
Brought to you by Bitch NATO and his Michigan friends.
Alright, we're gonna try this again.
All right.